And so you could see on the bottom exploded axon is just all the elements that are part of the system, right? So you see the actual panel, the membrane behind it, which might assist with some issues of water, and then the substructures behind that as well. And finally, on the bottom end over here is a program that I'm proposing. At the time, it's somewhat been involved since I've been here. But at the time, it was just a mere seating area, right? So that's derived from the geometry of the actual pavilion itself. But now I'm considering potential places for seamstress or salon of that sort, which is some of the things that we saw.
Hair salon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is some of the things that we saw in Jamestown earlier. So in the following pages, you can see the plan and section, but this is how, at the time, air would circulate, would actually be channeled vertically and then work its way back towards the ceiling and back towards the inhabitants below. So it's a kind of cooling off pavilion of sorts. And you can see more renderings on one end. And back to the point of pressing, this diagram is just illustrating the method that Mei-Ling and I just described in terms of here we have the two molds that we would mill. And then we would press the material from there. And on the left side is just earlier iterations that I developed in. So the current one that we're talking about is this one here. These are just earlier. But what's been consistent has been this moment here, is where they interlock, which I was describing earlier. And if you turn, well, I should probably pull out the... Yeah. No, I want to leave it for last because it really comes down to the joint, and that's why I printed it in order to.
You're size 9.5?
Huh?
Size 9.5?
Yes, I am. So I was actually worried that this was going to break in the flight, but it didn't. So. If you want to pass it around, but this is that moment that you see on the bottom end. At first, this is a point moment, which would have an issue with too little material in the area. So in order to fix that issue, I introduced a number of fillets, which added more material to that joint. So you can see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we described the pressing technology so well. So, you know, we separate the husk into the fibers and the dust, right? But then we create a female. So the part of the template that's at the bottom is the female, and then the top is the male. And you basically press it at the right temperature and pressure. And that's how you create the shape. So a lot of these shapes, you know, they don't look incredibly wild because you have to take into consideration how you're going to press it. And so,
yeah, the process of pressing, you have to always take into account that it cannot be undercuts because everything is coming from one, just pressing from one point. So that constrains a lot the geometry, the things that you can do. You cannot have undercuts and that type of thing because otherwise it can get locked. Yeah.
okay. And you guys are you guys pretty familiar with using 3D printers here? I hear you guys have 4. Are they up and running?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Still
Okay.
figuring that out.
Is it powder based or plastic based?
Plastic based.
Yeah.
PLA.
Yeah, that's good.
We can also print with coconut, 3D printed coconut if we have the filaments. So that could be a good thing.
I never heard of that.
Yeah,
That'd be
totally.
awesome.
I just wasn't telling you because it's so expensive, but maybe we do it for a final. All right. Okay, Miguel. Flavia? Do you want me to?
Sure.
The storyteller.
Okay. So I started off with an idea of how to aggregate circles. And that started changing as I started experimenting with how these shapes start to come together. Take into consideration weather and heat and how you want to circulate air throughout the structure. I decided to have openings in these morphed circles. And I took the idea of fish scales, as you can see here, and started playing around and really experimenting with how to connect very efficiently, reduce the amount of points so that it becomes a structure that can be malleable. And what I ended up with was, as you can see on page 45, this is one of the very preliminary ideas behind how malleable the structure can be. It can go out, it can go in, but it always circulates air through these apertures that happen as things turn over. It becomes a lot greater. As things turn in, things also become like two different openings. Things come out, you have an opening there. So however things turn, things start opening, and these apertures what allows the circulation to come through, as you can see in the pages following this. Again, the following page, 46 and 47, is the fish scales and how that was kind of taken into consideration. The following page, you can see a render of, again, one of the ideas, and you can see the structure that I started using for this particular structure. Going forward, I would like to reduce the amount of structure that it currently has so as to minimize the structure and really emphasize the scales themselves and the panels, so that we have a greater appreciation of what the panel can do with just the coconuts being the main attraction. The following pages, you can see again how I showed how things open with these scales. These are model pictures. Yeah.
And what are you thinking so far in terms of what would happen in it?
Oh, yeah, program. Initially, coming in, I didn't really have a defined program because I didn't really know what was necessary here, and I'm still trying to work through that. But I did have the idea of the kiosk in the back burner, kind of working through that to see what could happen. This was perhaps a pavilion. So I would really like to just keep moving forward to see.
If you guys have any ideas, jump in any time. This is totally a discussion. Yeah.
Sorry. The pavilion, I'm thinking here we have funerals, weddings and stuff.
You could rent it out.
Yeah.
And make money. Yeah, that's a business right there. It's a really good idea, actually. When is Homo Wall? Does anybody know how
It's in August, right?
But it's, I think the festival, do you know when in August? The festival is the 18th.
I think now various sections they do it differently. Depending on where you are, somebody does it differently.
If this is built early enough, it's actually a great idea for canopies. You know, because people usually take over, streets. They just block it off and you can't drive, which causes me nightmares. But yeah, like, that's a really good business idea.
What do you mean? Is it time for the year for funerals?
No, actually, it's funerals all year.
I'm just saying.
People spend more on funerals than on your wedding.
You can only die this time of year.
But there's a big festival in Jamestown, which predominantly Ga. You guys met so many Ga. It's called Homo Wall. And typically they do have, especially where we were, Brazil Lane, they usually have some canopy pavilions. It's a really interesting program. We have to maybe take you to a funeral so you know what that's like. Yeah, that's good. Nice. Okay. Amy?
So I started with a panel that was it was originally relatively flat, so the pieces would interlock in different ways, vertically and horizontally. But then by creating the model, I discovered that it has a tendency to bend. So I incorporated that into the actual design of the pavilion. So you can see on the first page on 52 that it's a round shape, and then on 54 you can see the floor plan of it is in the shape of a spiral. So it would have a small opening that the panels are actually stacked kind of, so that it would allow more light in where the opening is. And so this really plays with light in a bunch of different ways because you can see that it will start to create different patterns on the ground from the sun shining on it, as well as if it's lit from the inside, it creates different shadows along the whole exterior of the building. And so because of the different qualities of light and like we're gonna work on the airflow through the building, I thought it would be good for a program of like a storytelling type of thing where like children could gather and listen to someone telling stories. So just like a place to relax and get out of the sun for a bit. And so you can see on page 56 and 57 different diagrams. The one on 56 is showing how the structure of it would work, which I'm gonna try and instead of having it the panels simply placed onto the structure, have the structure kind of woven in through the panels. And then there's renders and photos of the models. And you can see in the photo on 61 at the top how it creates, you can see some of the shadows that it creates.
Has anyone here been to Chalawashi?
Yeah.
Do you guys know I forget his name, the guy who tells this Kweku Anansi? You guys know Anansi stories, right?
Yeah.
There's a guy, like an actual artist, who he begins the festival by in the Mancha Obona Square. He's actually rallying the children around for storytelling in the morning. Does that sound familiar? Or maybe they didn't do it last year.
Yeah. I think they did it for like the first 2 or 3 times.
Exactly, yeah.
But I don't think they did that last year.
I see. It might be a good little space where, he can actually, because the stories are, he's very interactive, and the idea behind it is really taking the importance of oral history. Oral history is unique in the fact that, when they tell you a story, they ask you, do you understand what I said? And you have to, it's not about repeating exactly what they said, but you have to interpret it and say it in your own words, and that's a very different way of learning. And so he has his children repeating what he's saying in their own words. And it could be a really interesting program. I actually don't know the guy, but we can track him down. He's a very interesting character.
Okay, and looking at what's on page 61, right, as opposed to this, it looks like a bathroom.
Bathroom.
Yeah, because we have these
Outdoor shower.
We
I
have
thought about
these
that.
bathrooms outdoor that is all shared. So when you look at the pole in the middle, where you can put it like, so it was a shower.
Like a mobile, sort of a mobile envelope.
Yeah, it could be like that. And if the material is such that it doesn't have to be cleaned it often, yeah, that slides off. It was easy to clean.
That's true. Because if we were sleeping in Jamestown tomorrow, you'll kind of see in the mornings, they might go and sleep in Jamestown tomorrow, maybe. But in the mornings, people just shower. They shower like on the road, especially the little kids. But as you grow older, you need some more privacy. And it could be that this is a sort of screen. You roll it up, put it in your house during the daytime, and then when you're going to shower, you create your own territory and have some privacy. I don't expect you to go and document showering, but it's interesting. Yeah. Awesome, thanks. We actually thought, Gustavo, that was one of your first suggestions for a program for this, right? Shower?
Yeah, well, I think so, yeah. Communal showers,
yeah.
Some sort of organized by kind of around, taking the plan of the neighborhood and deciding, distances between according to number of people, how many showers you will need. Yeah.
Great.
Or laundry, perhaps this will be the laundry
Hanging.
facility. So, Brianna, is yours?